He sat down and pushed the chair on the far side away with his foot. Care to join me? Shane invited. She ain't for sale, mister, Sam announced. I'm just here for show and to help Sam out when he needs it, Priscilla included. Well, darling, I don't reckon that Sam needs any help standing around watching the leaks drip through the roof. So why don't you come on over here and keep me company, Shane urged. Priscilla looked over to Sam for some excuse not to and found none. So with a giggle, she shrugged her shoulders and went and sat down at the table with Shane. What's the name of this town? Shane inquired as she got comfortable. This town is called Dry Gulch, she answered. He nodded in acknowledgement as he pulled the silver cigarette case out of his pocket, opened it up, and she saw 5 slim cigars and some matchsticks inside. He took out a cigarillo and a match. He put the tobacco between his lips, and he struck the match off of the hammer of his gun. You know it's customary to buy a lady a drink, she explained, as he kindled an ember on his smoke when the flame flared from the stick. Sam, bring my lady whatever she desires, Shane exhaled, along with a plume of smoke. Priscilla giggled nervously. Your lady? Isn't that being a bit presumptuous? She asked. I always get what I want, Shane mentioned. Priscilla grinned, inspired by his confidence. She continued to order. Sam, I'll have a glass of wine. Coming right up, Sam consented as he grabbed the glass and began to wipe it clean. So tell me, Mr. Shane, what is your intentions with me? She asked. What is your desire? She added. You, Shane stated without any hesitation. Like I said, she's not for sale, Sam reiterated as he poured the wine from the bottle. I can't buy what I already own, Shane claimed. Priscilla giggled again as she looked over towards Sam, who was bringing her the glass of vino. She accepted it from him, awaiting some sort of comment from the proprietor, but Sam just looked at Shane with an uncertain scowl. Priscilla took a sip of her beverage. Is this that watered-down stuff? She asked. It's all I have, Sam admitted. She shook her head. I should have known, she replied. Yes, you should have, Sam rebutted while walking back behind the bar. Suddenly, the back doors opened and in came 3 vaqueros. The first Mexican was wearing a drenched sombrero. He was unkempt, with straggly strands of hair going in every direction, all his skin. His Roman nose was the obvious result of being broken, and it never was set correctly. He had a goatee, but the unshaven whiskers had almost caught up to it to make a full beard, and the wet poncho hung over his body. His sidearm was assumably hidden beneath. He had on hemp pants with long pointed-toe boots. The second Mexican appeared young. He was light-skinned and was donning a fancy wide-brimmed hat with a flat crown. He had a thin mustache, and he wore a short, brightly stitched jacket. His Star 38 caliber pistol prominently shined from the polished steel in his tooled western holster that wrapped around the waistline of his tight-fitting decorated pants that were tucked inside his tall, stovepipe boots with flat toes. Following him was a fat, greasy Mexican, wearing a floppy, wide-brimmed hat. He was reddened and had a scar down the side of his face, stretched from his eye to the side of his chin, and he was bald with a burly beard down to his belly. He wore a worsted gingham shirt with a rawhide vest over it. A watch fob dangled out of the left pocket. He had an old military holster with the flap cut off, and in it was a Smith & Wesson .357 revolver. He had on woolen chapeaux around his white cotton pants, and the pointed toes of his boots protruded out from underneath them. They stood inside the doorway for a moment, shaking off the wetness that bore witness to what had now began to become a downpour outside. Comancheros, Priscilla warned in a whisper. Shane noticed the fear in the tone of her voice. Don't fret none, darling, he consoled as he gently held her hand. You're mine now, he assured, but she still worried. She knew what these half-breed savages were capable of doing. Normally she would be hiding and waiting for them to have their fill and leave, but their attention was focused on Shane, and now they were surprised by these mojados. Tequila, the first bandito demanded as they meandered towards the counter, tracking mud across the floor of the establishment. Sam was reluctant, as he knew this would not end well. Someone was going to die, sooner or later, but he relented and surrendered the gourd of aqua vera, predicting fate's demise to be later rather than sooner. The Mexicans took the container, uncorked the jug, and began to take a swig from it as they passed it around amongst themselves. Shane saw the stress on Priscilla's face. He knew she was scared. She knew the nightmare that was about to start. Darling, you are my woman, my wife, and that makes you my responsibility, Shane assured. But it was little consolation, as he was surely outgunned, she perceived. But then Shane surprised her when he leaned over and gave her a comforting kiss, and she curled up in his embrace for support, where Shane caressed her in his cuddle, and she began to feel safe. They watched as the Mexicans guzzled their cactus juice.